Good morning. Oh my gosh, my battery is low. Are you kidding me? Hold on. Hi, everybody. My husband just called. Hopefully he'll see the Periscope notice. Good morning. Good morning. So, I have to tell you real quick, because you guys, a lot of you are moms and will appreciate this. I was talking to my daughter this morning. That's why I'm late. Of course, she loves to call at 9:30. And she said that she'd been coaching her wife through some difficulties that Sarah is her wife, Morgan's my daughter. So Sarah's been having trouble at work. And Morgan was coaching her on how to use Desire Map principles, basically, and think positive and all this stuff. Well, 24 hours later, the person who was harassing her got fired. Yay! And you know who she gave credit for that? The learning those techniques from? I probably shouldn't say. But Glennon Carry-On Warrior, Glennon Melton Doyle, who I love, but she was raised by who? A therapist. I was like, Morgan, I'm so proud of you for helping Sarah with all these things that you've learned. And she said, yeah, Glennon Melton Doyle's been the greatest. That book you gave me, Carry On Warrior, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, really? I'm so glad that Glennon taught you how to get through life with these principles, whatever. Actually, what I said was, you little shit. Damn kids. Well, and she knows. She's like, well, I can't listen to you. You're my mom. It's so classic, right? No credit. No respect, no credit. It's so classic. I was really just making fun of her, but I was like, all right. Yay, Glennon. Which, by the way, I really do love Glennon. And we got to see her live in Florida, and so I'm really glad that Morgan actually read that book. She's an amazing, amazing woman. And if that's what it takes to get my daughter to work these principles, fine. I'll let Glennon have the credit because she's awesome. I know. Glennon wasn't wiping your ass when you were 8 months old. Now, was she? I just had to share it. It's so funny. It actually is really funny. It's just like, eye roll, whatever. Whatevs, yo. Let's talk about this Dow stuff, though. Because that's what we have to do with our kids, right? Just roll with it. It's never going to change. And to even try to think about changing it is ridiculous. It wouldn't... I mean, Morgan is the kind of kid who would say, well, I like her better, so I listen to her. Yeah, and husbands, it's the same. Spouses, wives, partners, whatever. She said she told Sarah that she needed to go to therapy because she was really obsessing so badly on this work situation. And Sarah said, well, why do I need to go to therapy? You're here and you tell me everything to do. And Morgan was like, yeah, I tell you and you don't listen. So apparently we have to go pay for somebody to tell you what to do. Right, exactly. So let's read in the Tao Te Ching. Today is 66. Low down. Lakes and rivers are lords of the 100 valleys. Why? Because they'll go lower. So they're the lords of the 100 valleys. Just so a wise soul, wanting to be above other people, talks to them from below and to guide them, follows them. And so the wise soul predominates without dominating and leads without misleading. And people don't get tired of enjoying and praising one who, not competing, has in all the world no competitor. Her notes say, one of the things I love in Lao Tzu is his good cheer, as in this poem, which while giving good counsel is itself a praise and enjoyment of the spirit of yin, the water soul that yields, follows, eludes, and leads on, dancing in the 100 valleys, which is parenting. seed plant with your kids. The minute you issue an order, you're doomed. Doomed, I tell you. Go lower than them and help them find their own answers. The best thing they can do is think that they figured it out themselves. That builds their confidence. It builds their belief that they can tackle problems and achieve success. It's really, hi Nina, it's really better if the credit comes from somewhere else. Yeah, marriage too. Planting seeds, talking to people from below, and just that whisper, that drop in the bucket, that hint, that tiny suggestion over time accumulates, and when it breaks through, it typically comes from outside of them somewhere, and it all clicks together. And so, don't worry about it. Who cares who gets the credit? She's out there living the principles that she was taught, and that means her life, it has been easier in a lot of respects, and it will continue to get easier for her as she implements this stuff more and more in her life. And then Glennon gets the credit. Which is okay, because who doesn't want to give her credit? She's so awesome. Yeah, it's chilly outside. Plus, I really need to get into town and run a couple of errands. And I was trying to save the 10 minutes it takes me to cart everything outside. Oh, look! My book got toddlered on another page. I love that my book has been toddlered. Okay. Stephen Mitchell's translation of this says, all streams flow to the sea. I love it. Because it is lower than they are. Humility gives it its power. If you want to govern the people, you must place yourself below them. If you want to lead the people, you must learn how to follow them. The master is above the people, and no one feels oppressed. She goes ahead of the people, and no one feels manipulated. The whole world is grateful to her because she competes with no one. No one can compete with her. And that's back to that. If you aren't defending yourself and fighting other people's opinions, fighting for their approval or against their judgment, there's no competition. Because all that stuff just goes in one ear and out the other. And actually, a lot of times, you don't even register that someone's trying to compete with you because it's just such a non-issue. You never want people that you're trying to lead and model for to feel manipulated, which means you have to check your agenda at the door. If you have an agenda that you're going to say, I'm going to say this thing, and it's going to lead to this other thing, people know that you're manipulating them. If you take a gift to someone and there's a big fat string attached to it, they know. They might not be able to define what it is, yeah, but they'll know there's some funk in the wrapping paper. They'll know. And even worse than that, you know. You know you're being shady if you're doing stuff like that. So you have to, and it's not something to be ashamed of, it's something to take a look at. Like, are you so scared that you're not going to get your own needs met that you feel like you have to manipulate other situations? If that's the case, you need to start deconstructing that story. I smell a string. I smell a string attached here. Invisible strings smell the worst. It's so funny. Okay. And I like this line that says, all streams flow to the sea because it is lower than they are. Humility gives it its power. To me, that is the thing about the do without doing. You're going to get to your goal, and how you get there is going to determine the quality of your experience when you get there and how long you're able to sustain what you achieved. If you have to fight and claw, yeah, it is. If you have to fight and claw and manipulate and engineer situations to achieve a goal, then you're going to have to fight and claw and continue engineering to sustain that goal until it all finally breaks apart, which it always does. If you just allow the natural processes and work within the way life works when you do it well, when you do it in line with universal principles and respect and service to others, you still get there, but it's easy to sustain because it was the natural and organic achievement of it. It wasn't schemed and forced to. The achievement wasn't schemed and forced. So, excuse my big finger. So, I'm sure Byron Katie is going to tell us something similar to that. Hold on. Let me get to the page. Do you know I haven't had coffee in like 3 days? The last time y'all saw me drinking coffee, I got those sips in and almost threw up after. I feel incredibly deprived. And pretty sorry for myself. Okay, 66. All streams flow to the sea because it's lower than they are. Humility gives it its power. No tea. I had tea. I couldn't drink it. I haven't been able to drink it. Tea. Nope, not intentionally. I had the stomach flu. It hasn't been able to sit since then. Yes. Pity me, please, because my own self-pity is not nearly enough. The material world is a metaphor of mind. Mind, rise it into it. No, I will never use Digest. You can't make me. It's horrible. Ugh. It's the worst oil ever. Thank you. I'll have an extra side of pity, please. No, it's horrendous. No, I think you're lying. Yeah, I'm okay. I'm willing to suffer. Nope. Okay. The material world is a metaphor of mind. Mind rises into its projections and must eventually come back to itself, just as streams flow back to the sea. No matter how brilliant the mind, no matter how large the ego that takes credit for its actions, when it comes to see that it doesn't know anything, that it can't know anything, it flows back to the origin and meets itself again in all humility. Once you realize what is true, everything flows to you because you have become the living example of humility. The mind realized is content to stay in the lowest, least creative position. Out of that, everything is created. Hi, Angela. The lowest place is the highest place. The position of non-competition and a relaxed ego is the most powerful place. It's the most powerful position that you can take. Because you're not wasting energy seeking approval or defending against judgment. Hi, Kim. You're not wasting any energy worrying about what other people are doing. Your mind actually gets to relax. Thank you. We're going to bring party favors to our pity party. Yes, you have a chillaxed ego, and it's a wonderful place to be. Hi. It's hard to sustain. I struggle to sustain it. I still compare and compete, and then I catch it, and I'm like, you know what? That's how life works for me. I do a lot better financially and in all kinds of ways when I just do my thing and don't worry about other people's thing. Do your thing. Yeah, mine gets to relax. My screen is getting glitchy. I hope that's not happening to you guys. Oh gosh, I don't remember. I can barely remember yesterday. Okay. Less than a week after my return from the halfway house. Remember she was in the halfway house and she had that big epiphany? Less than a week after my return from the halfway house, word spread about my change, and strangers hi Aaron, began calling me on the phone, asking questions or asking if they could come see me. Okay, that's weird. They would call me at all hours, in the middle of the night, all day, people from 12-step programs, from the street, people who'd been told about me by a friend of a friend. What I heard in their questions was a longing. They would ask, "How can I find your freedom?" And I'd say, "I don't know. But if you want to see what it is, come live with me. All I know is that you're welcome to what I have." Craigslist killer? What was she thinking? Anyway, there was a continuous stream of people coming to the house. One person would come, the phone would ring. She let them come hang out at her house. 2 more would show up, 5, 6, maybe a dozen by the evening. They had heard I was a saint, a master, a Buddha. They would say I had something called enlightenment. I had no idea what that meant. It sounded like having the flu. When they looked at me with wonder in their eyes, I felt they were seeing me as some kind of freak, and that was okay with me. I knew I was free. Oh, bummer. I knew I was free. Yeah, but I was still being bombarded by all the delusions that humanity has ever suffered from. It didn't feel enlightened to me. So she had her enlightenment thing, but as she has said earlier in the book, and it's totally true, enlightenment isn't something that you have that and then you keep it for always. It comes and goes. It requires a sustained dedication to continue in that feeling, that connection of enlightenment, to sustain those periods in your life, or longer and longer time frames, takes effort. So it didn't feel like enlightenment. She still had to do the work that she came up with. You know, it's cognitive therapy with a little twist. It's rational emotive behavioral therapy with a little twist. Hi, Cynthia. So her mind took, most likely, what she was getting at the halfway house and put this unique spin on it. Yeah, a daily effort. Hi. That's ultimate creativity, right? And that's kind of what happens with our kids. Like, we put information in, we send out the message, and each particular mind takes it and puts their own little spin on it, and then, if we're lucky, puts it back out into the world so we can see what that unique signature is to their work. And lucky for us, she put this really comprehensible spin on it and made it a lot easier to use and made it more accessible to the general public, rather than having to go to therapy to learn what rational emotive behavioral therapy is. You can just pick up a book and watch some YouTube videos and start to benefit from it. That's the real gift in her offering, I believe. It's just made it so accessible. So for about a year, I had to write down the beliefs that kept arising in my mind. I had to write them down and inquire in order to hold reality firmly. They came very fast, hundreds, thousands of them. Each belief felt like a meteor crashing into a planet trying to demolish it. Someone would say, or I would hear in my mind, "It's a terrible day," and my body would start to shake. It was as if I couldn't bear the lie. It didn't matter whether I or someone else spoke it, because I knew it was all me. The cleansing, the undoing inside me was instantaneous, whereas when I offer inquiry to people, they're doing it in apparent time and space, in the density that looks like time and space. But for me, the timelessness was obvious. So when a belief hit me, yeah, she did. When a belief hit me, I would sit and write it down and put it up against the 4 questions and turn it around. That first year, I was writing all the time, crying all the time, but I never felt upset. So she's talking about this, the surface water was choppy and wind whipped and all of that, and that was going on, and she was crying and processing through all these beliefs, but underneath it all, she wasn't upset because she knew where she was going. She'd already seen it, and she hung on to that under that deep depth of the ocean, calm, while all this other stuff was going on. I loved this woman who was dying through inquiry. This woman who had been so confused. I kept falling in love with her. She was irresistible. Have you described yourself as irresistible? Ever? I'm irresistible. I'm simply irresistible. Most mornings before or after I went out walking, I would sit by a window in the sunlight and wait. Okay, so here's how she did it, right? I would sit by a window in the sunlight and wait for an uncomfortable feeling to appear. If it did, I would be thrilled because I knew that this was always the result of some thought I needed to clean up. I was this too. So I would write the thought down. There was a lot of humor in the process. I know, yeah, you're doomed now. You'll have that damn song in your head all day. The thoughts I wrote down were almost always about my mother. I knew that if I burned through one delusion, I would burn through them all because I was dealing with concepts, not with people. They were thoughts like, my mother doesn't love me, she loves my sister and brother more, she should invite me to family gatherings, if I tell the truth about what happened, she'll deny it, no one will believe me. That first year, it wasn't enough that a thought was being met by inquiry wordlessly in my mind. The thought had to be written down. I can't stress this to you enough. You can think those 4 questions. Is it true? Is it really true? How do you react when you think that thought? Who would you be without that thought? And turn it around, give that advice to yourself. You can do that in your head pretty quickly, but you lose, I'm going to say 75% of the value in that exercise if you don't write it down. Even typing it, there's typable forms on her website that you can type into. You can't save them, but you can type into them. And even that, just the process of seeing it in black and white, what's in your head out on paper, leads you to, it shows you how pervasive some beliefs can be. Like how many of the domains in your life are covered by this story. Yes, words come out that surprise you. Judgments and shoulds come out that surprise you. Like, oh, shit, what is that? And it won't happen if you're just doing it in your head. If you're just doing it in your head, your ego's just playing a game with you. So take it out and actually write it down. Yeah, it is. It really is. Handwriting is best. Typing is second best. And in your head is absolute worst. Okay, so I'd write the thought down. Oh, no, wait. Where am I? The thought had to be written down. Okay. Oh, it's the 4 questions on thework.com. It's Byron Katie stuff. If you go to thework.com or just Google Judge Your Neighbor Worksheet, it gives you the system of 4 questions. It's REBT basically. And it just takes you through this process of disassembling your stories about the world. So I never get what I want, and people should give me what I want. You write down all your shoulds, and it's really profound how it picks it apart. So it's on the internet. It's real easy. It's a house of cards. Yeah, you start pulling a few of those stories apart, and a lot of other stories start collapsing, and your energy goes up. You can't stop mental chaos, however motivated you are. But if you identify one piece of chaos and stabilize it, then the whole world can start to make sense. So I'd write the thought down and question it. Sometimes I'd sit for an hour, sometimes a whole morning and afternoon. However long it took to meet the thought with understanding, I could always see that the thought wasn't true, that it was an erroneous assumption. I could never find any proof that would hold up. And then I'd ask, how do I react when I believe that thought? And I usually, when I'm using this with other people, I tend to ask them, how do you feel when you're thinking that thought, that someone should love you that doesn't? Immediately, I could see that it was the source of the suffering, not my mother. Then I would ask, What was I before that thought? What would I be without it? And again, I'll ask people, how would you feel without that thought that this person should do this or that? How would you feel in letting go of that thought? And then you flip it around. One polarity is just as true as the other. My mother doesn't love me becomes my mother does love me. I was dying for a cause that had an equally true opposite, and nothing short of inquiry would stop the shaking. Aaron, too, or anybody who's interested in doing the worksheets, I think if you go in the Perry Fam Friends group in the file section, there's a mini, like a mini book about it, and I think the worksheets are in that file section, which might be easier. You just read the little mini book first. I would put every concept about my mother on paper as I thought it, because those concepts were the most powerful for me. Then inquiry would clear them. I was working not with my own mother, but with the concepts that appear for every human being. We all have the same ones. I want, I need, she should, she shouldn't. You're welcome. It's a really powerful tool. I was engaged in the science of the self. I was mind realizing itself, God looking into its own mirror. Humility is our natural response to seeing what's true about ourselves. When we judge others and we question that judgment, then turn it around to ourselves, that is the fire and the purification. Our knees buckle and we learn how sweet it is to lose and how that is the winning. That's what the work is about. Some people call it forgiveness. I call it sanity. When we are fighting unwinnable battles, when we finally agree to lose, we win. We win everything when we stop fighting reality, when we stop arguing about the past, things that happened, things that should or shouldn't have happened. When we let go of all that, and this is a great tool for doing that, our mind relaxes and it becomes... Our minds, in a way, our egos remind me of an out-of-control dog in some ways. If a dog or a child feels like no one is in control, or toddler, they freak out and they're maniacs. They act terrible naughty. They're tiny and they know that somebody needs to be in charge, and they get the sense that nobody is, so they try to impose order on chaos, and it can look like terrible behavior. And I feel like our ego's the same way. It knows that somebody needs to be in charge, and we're asleep at the wheel because we haven't taken responsibility for what we're thinking and what we're saying and things that we're playing out in life. And as soon as we do take responsibility for it and teach our mind that it doesn't have to spin circles all the time, it gets to relax, because it's like setting boundaries on out-of-control kids and teaching a dog a few simple commands. For most dogs, I mean, Erin has like a special needs dog, or I don't know if you still have her, but it's a toddler and a puppy. Yeah, it's a tuppy. Somebody's got to lead, and your mind tries and it doesn't know how to do it, so it screws things up and makes you crazy. Yes, she's less special needs now because she has you and Joel teaching her that the world is actually an okay place to live in. We have to do that with our minds too. Yeah, our minds are tuppies. They're toddler puppies. Toddlers and puppies need limits. A dog really needs to know where its place is in the hierarchy of dogdom. When it knows what the rules are, what the expectations are, dogs relax and they're much better behaved and they don't act so freakishly wild. But if they know that you're not in control of the situation, they freak out. So you find that in couples when you're doing dog training. Somebody's the permissive parent and somebody's the parent that actually makes the dog behave. Yes, it's so hard to remember that. It is. And our minds do the same thing. Our minds are like, screw you, I don't want to meditate. This is boring. Morgan's the permissive one in their family. The dogs and the kids get away with murder, and Sarah holds everybody accountable. There's usually one of each. So when we discipline our minds, we get the same results as disciplining and setting limits for a dog or a kid. We create a safety net. I know, right? Thank God for Sarah. And that discipline, to me, looks like daily practice. 5 minutes. I don't care what it is I end up doing. I have to do it. I have to show up for it and sit in a chair and say, this is my 5 minutes. Even if I don't, even if it's not what you could consider a quality 5 minutes, I'm still keeping that commitment to myself. I'm still showing my mind I'm committed to the process of living life differently and not letting it freak out and be so scared. Our minds freak out and get so scared, and we allow it because usually we don't know how to stop it. So that's what we talk about a lot here, is how to put those boundaries and the beautiful kind of discipline into your life, not the punishing military discipline. Firm but gentle. Firm but gentle training for your tuppy. I'll just make a new workshop with that title. Firm but gentle training for your tuppy. Yeah, it's the commitment that counts. In my mind, it's the showing up that matters. The commitment to yourself, for me, it's the commitment to align with spirituality before the day gets too far away from me. Hi, Heath. I'll call you back as soon as I'm done. It's that daily, I am going to show up, even if all I can do is sit down in the chair and label it, this is that time I said I would do every day. Usually I sit there for a minute and I'm off and running, and I'll spend, 15, 20 minutes in something meditative and aligning myself with my core desired feelings, saying some prayers. Okay. That's fine. It's no big deal. I'll call you back. Yeah. So yeah, that's all I have. I should probably go and get into town. There's a couple of errands I really need to get done. And I want to get them done before the lunch hour, because this whole town shuts down for lunch and everybody's out running crazy trying to get stuff done, which is weird because most things are shut down. You're welcome. You're so welcome. Linda, it's nice to see you scoping more. I keep missing them. I got my notifications turned on now, though. Love you, too. I love all you guys so much. Thanks for showing up. Oh, my gosh. Super quick. A couple of people have asked about the Desire Map for Young Living Oil people. So if you're doing the business of Young Living and you want a Desire Map workshop specific to that, it is set up now. It's called OilersUnite.eventbrite.com. Oilers, like Houston Oilers, although I don't think they're called that anymore. OilersUnite.eventbrite.com. It's up and running now. And it's for people working young living as a business. It will. You can take it if you want. Yes, thank you, Linda. Okay, I meant to say that a long time ago, but forgot. Anyway, have a great day. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.